Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Gulfport number FR110 adjustable drywall anchor is what this is. This is a two-piece anchor. It's going to look like this actually when it goes together. Let's take a closer look at it. So this is a drywall anchor. Well, that's pretty common, and the term drywall really means mostly it applies to the wall type. It's going to be a partition type wall, drywall and studs. You would use this with a hollow metal masonry anchor is really where you'd use this. You wouldn't use a drywall anchor with a drywall frame, so it's very confusing. Certainly it was for me when I was first learning. These terms were you know, the word drywall is used in so many different meanings that it's hard to really wrap your head around it, I suppose. Or I know that it was. So a drywall anchor is intended to go onto a partition drywall type wall. You'd probably use a masonry anchor with this, and what the difference is between a masonry anchor and a drywall style steel frame, a masonry steel frame and a drywall steel frame, is that a drywall frame is specifically intended for a partition wall and that it has backbend returns, and the assembly of the frame, the way that it goes together at the jamb and the header, is inherently different than a masonry frame. They also incorporate their own anchoring system, therefore you don't use these. But you don't generally weld a drywall frame because they're not set up to be welded together, even though you can do it. But with drywall frames, there are no dust boxes, mortar guards or dust boxes on the hinges or strike. There are no floor anchors because it's meant for an interior partition wall. So you'll use a drywall anchor like this with a masonry style frame because that is meant to be welded together for interior or exterior construction. And welded is generally what is ordered because that will keep the frame healthy, square, true, hopefully plumb, etc. So this anchor is a adjustable style, meaning that it will fit a range of jamb depths. You can see the stamping on the frame. It goes from 5 1/4. No, well, it says, you can't really see it, but it says 4 3/4 there, all the way out to 7-inch. Okay, so you can use this anchor to accommodate jamb depths from 4 3/4 out to 7-inch. It is on these graduation marks that are there: 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6 3/4, then 7-inch. Interestingly enough, you know, that really covers everything that you're going to encounter. 5 5/8 occasionally you encounter, but that's just going to be your 5 3/4. And the way that these work is that, and let's back up, these are kind of expensive compared to regular 5 3/4 jamb depth drywall anchors because there's more to it. There's more pieces to it, there's more metal to it, there's more work to it. So the way that this works is that you just simply line these pieces up and tab and slot them into the area that you want them to fit. You are very commonly going to see these when you have those unusual jamb depths that you don't bump into all the time, and you want to keep one type of anchor to work a 5 1/4 jamb depth, which you might bump into. Maybe a 6 1/4 jamb depth, which you might bump into a 6 3/4 jamb depth, which you'll certainly bump into. You don't want to keep drywall anchors fixed for all three of those sizes, and because you expect to run into them with drywall anchors so unusually, so uncommonly, so infrequently, you're just going to keep a barrel full of these and you'll be able to sell them that way, because those other frames, you know, you're also going to need, you're probably going to use T-anchors on that 6 3/4 jamb depth. One thing that we used to do if you're doing drywall, if you're doing stud partition, we would just make our own Z-brackets that we would weld into the frame, 3 or 4 per side, whatever the job calls for, and then you bring your studs up to the back of that Z-bracket and run your zip screws right into it. Cheap. Well, you do have to cut them on your saw, but you weld them in. But for a lot of installations, these two-piecers are really great. So they slide together like this. Let's say that we're working with that unusual 6 3/4, not unusual, but somewhat less common. You'll literally take and push these together. I'm not going to do that because I want to take them, forget it. Let's live a little. There we go. Okay, now they're snapped together, and they're reasonably put together. You're going to take this and put it into the throat of the frame and slide it like this. The return will go in back here. Now, if you've got a drywall frame, you're going to have a problem with the back bend returns, and you're going to need to notch this all back. So that's not going to work really well for a drywall type frame. So then what happens is you'll take this tab and you're going to literally bend it over like that, and then this one the other way. And now you can see what's going to happen. Your 3 5/8 metal stud is going to fit right in here, or your 3.5 inch wood stud. That's how that's going to work. This is made of steel in a white coat galvanized finish. This is made for a 2-inch face frame, a 2-inch face. This entire dimension is based on 2-inch. If you have 1 3/4, 1.5 inches, you can still make these work, but it's going to be a lot of cutting and a lot of bending to make them work. One thing that we like to do is, one thing that I always like to do in all instances is I really like to weld the anchors into the frame, because I don't want that call from the job site. The guy said, "You didn't send me any anchors." Yeah, we did. They're in the box. I put them there myself. They're gone. I need anchors, and I need them now, and I'm 20 miles away, and I'm not driving them to you. Okay, this is construction, so that happens. I like to weld them into the frame because it eliminates that phone call, and people do appreciate it. Because this doesn't need to go to the job site loose. There's no reason to have it loose that I can think of. You weld that in, it's not going to get lost. If you're doing a steel stud situation, you can tuck these back or cut them off and run your zip screws right into these flanges here and here, right through the back of your stud. And that's how this would work. So I always like anchoring them, welding them to the frame whenever I can. Now, the name Gulfport is synonymous with piece parts for the hollow metal industry. They are a independent manufacturer of this material, and I know that they supply their anchors and their other hollow metal parts to Tier 1 level SDI member hollow metal manufacturers, because they get into making a lot of this stuff that's kind of unusual. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Gulfport products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to that full product catalog. And if you have more than an occasional need for hollow metal parts, they'd be a good option for you. If you are a contractor who installs steel doors and frames, I could make a really strong argument for you to personally put 3 frames worth of this just in your shelf stock. There's another size. They've got a size that goes from 7 1/8 inch out to 12 inch. Existing anchors, T anchors most certainly. You can get T anchors that are meant for 8 3/4 frames and then just chop them down on either side. So you always have some T anchors in stock. Anchors seem to be really problematic when they've gone missing on the job site, and they seem to be really difficult to get your hands on immediately. And you think to yourself, it shouldn't be that way. Anchors should be just on the shelf. Someone's got to stock them, and not everyone does, and that's the bottom line. Any questions on the Gulfport? This is their part number FR110, adjustable 2-piece drywall anchor, or any other Gulfport product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.